everybody. Sorry I am late. Um, had a bit of a busy day, obviously, with UFC 249 coming up here on Saturday. So, sort of work is starting to pick back up. So, certainly had a busy day. So, had to push back the live Q&A that I do and then had to even push it further with some things that came up. So yeah, I apologize for the little programming last minute change, but I appreciate you guys sticking around to watch the video, even though it's a little later. If you didn't, hopefully you catch the replay. By the way, my name is Danny Segura. I am a mixed martial arts reporter for MMAJunkie.com, formerly MMAfighting.com, and this is my weekly live Q&A where I answer all your questions regarding mostly combat sports world, but sometimes you guys ask me about other things. Um, so yeah, we do have I believe all MMA questions in store for this installment. So yeah, tons of MMA talk. Busy week, busy week. Like I said, first event in this whole pandemic. I mean, I don't really count UFC Brasilia as the first event during the pandemic because it was just getting started. This is the real first event since kind of the world changed and took a pause. So it feels weird. I'm not gonna lie. I don't really feel like it's fight week, but but I don't know. But then it kind of does at the same time. There's just a weird feeling behind it. I'm curious to see if it's gonna change or if it's gonna get bigger. The feeling as we get closer to the fight. I wonder how this is all gonna feel, and I wonder if this is gonna be the norm as well. I wonder if I don't know, moving forward. I mean, I suspect this thing's gonna, as far as COVID-19, I suspect this thing's gonna stick around for a bit. So so yeah, I wonder if events are going to kind of feel like this, and I'm curious to see how MMA looks within this pandemic. Actually, recently I talked to Mike Brown about various topics, and one of the topics was that he suggests or he thinks that MMA will look differently and feel differently within this climate, and we talked at length about that, and it was actually very revealing. And not that I didn't believe him, I believed him, and I think everything made sense. But as fight week rolls out, the more I realize, like, oh snap, like it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird. So yeah, we'll see. But anyways, appreciate everybody tuning in. So let's get this thing started. All right, question number 1 by Jesus Magdaleno. Many people believe Justin Gaethje will defeat Tony Ferguson on Saturday. How do you see this fight going? Also, how do you see Nico Price versus Vicente Luque going? So great question. Thank you, Jesus, for your weekly questions. Always appreciate sort of what you're trying to ask and what angles you take. They're certainly very interesting, very good questions, as usual. Yeah, this one is a weird one. So was it today or yesterday? I don't even know. I'm losing track of time. But as you guys know, over at MMA Junkie, we do the staff picks article that comes out with every fight card, and obviously prior to that, there needs to be preparation as far as like building the article and all that. Doesn't just come up out of nowhere. So we submit our picks a few days before the actual article rolls out, and then the person in charge, which is Matt Erickson, gets all that prepped and then gets that out. And yeah, we have an email thread about it. And I'm telling you, I mean, I don't want to kind of ruin the article because I know a lot of people enjoy looking at the picks, but there was people that emailed more than twice, changing picks, and a lot of it was centered towards the main event. Me personally, uh, writing the main event pick down, like I paused, took a deep breath, and really just thought about it. Even till this very moment, I really don't know who's gonna win the main event. To be honest, it seemed going into it, I felt really strong about Tony Ferguson winning the fight. Obviously, defeating Justin Gaethje for the interim title in the main event of UFC 249. But as the fight gets closer, I don't know. I don't know. There's a weird feeling creeping up that Justin Gaethje is very much game, and he could very well spoil the Ferguson Khabib party and just jump right in there and insert himself as the next guy to challenge Khabib. That's certainly a possibility, and I think it's one that is likely. I don't know how likely it is, though. I know it's likely. I just don't know how likely it is. Um, I would say they're neck and neck. I mean, I think I still give a slight edge to Tony Ferguson, but boy, I'm not confident like 100% to pick Tony Ferguson. No, I picked to be a little bit of a spoiler. Me personally, although it might change, I did pick Tony Ferguson, but man, Justin Gaethje is a live dog here. Um, what has changed as far as my outlook towards it? One is Tony's been dropped before. Tony's been dropped before, and by guys that hit that have less punching power than Gaethje, right? Lando Venado dropped him. He's a great striker, very dynamic, but I mean you can't compare his power to Gaethje's. Pettis dropped him. I mean Pettis got power for sure, but I think Gaethje's got a little more. Um, you know, guys have certainly tagged up Tony Ferguson, and one of the guys you do not want to be tagged up by in the lightweight division is Justin Gaethje. So, but at the same time, Tony's just so good, has so many skill sets, and even when he gets tagged, the dude is great at avoiding shots while on the ground, while rocked, while whatever. And the dude's just tough as shit. His mental fortitude is amazing. He can fight through anything. So again, it's just a weird one. And also, Tony Ferguson has been getting ready for much longer than Gaethje has, so keep that in mind. But at the same time, dude, Tony Ferguson cut weight 2 weeks ago, and look, that's all badass and all, but there's some pictures out there. He's looking, pretty sunken in. So I don't know if that's gonna be a factor. So yeah, great question, Jesus. I have no idea. I'm going with Tony Ferguson to answer your half of your question, but I'm very split, and I feel like as fight week gets as fight day gets closer, fight night, um, I don't know. I think I'll be even more in doubt. I don't know, or maybe I'll feel a little better about picking Tony. I'm not sure, but as of now, I picked Tony. I just think he has the experience factor. I think he's been getting ready for far longer. Um, Gaethje said it. He's not going to be 100%. He said he has 18 minutes of hell probably in there, which is good. You can I can see a scenario where he gets Tony Ferguson out of there within 18 minutes, but I can also see a scenario where Tony Ferguson gets past those 18 minutes of hell and then puts it on Justin Gaethje. So yeah, I'm a little bit split, but I'm gonna go with Ferguson on this one. As far as the second, um, oh, and about how do I see the fight going? So I'm picking Ferguson, and as far as how the fight will play out, I think it could play out many different ways. Obviously, both guys are very proficient in many areas, but I would say this. Mm, I think it'll be a nice, exciting striking battle. I think Gaethje will look good early on. Will tag, Ferguson. There might be some scary moments here and there, but once Ferguson, just think about this, and this is actually something that Professor Pedro Sauer, told me and a bunch of other people once. For those who don't know, Pedro Sauer is the first, I believe, American to ever receive a black belt, and he received the black belt from Rickson Gracie. So he is my original instructor, Ismael Saturno's instructor. So he would always come to the academy in Florida for seminars and stuff like that. And he very is Gracie Jiu Jitsu, so they emphasize a lot of the top game. And I believe somebody asked him once about like, what about the guard? What about the guard? And he's like, the good thing about being good at the guard is that once you're good at the guard and being good of your back, you'll always have a home. And that's very true for Tony Ferguson. If Tony Ferguson ever gets rocked or anything like that, and you see that too in other people's games like Charles Oliveira and a few other guys that are very violent off their back, they can get rocked, things could be going south, and they can just literally drop to their back. Usually that's not a death sentence, but that's usually it's bad news for a lot of fighters being on their back. But for guys like those, you would run away from them. Like you don't want to be anywhere in their guard. So yeah, I believe Ferguson will rely a lot on that, go to his back to kind of rest or recover from shots, and see if he can invite Gaethje into a grappling match. But I can see him using those points to recover, and then eventually I feel like the tides will turn, and then Ferguson will either get a late stoppage, which is incredibly difficult to do against Gaethje, or maybe do enough to get a decision. But that's how I see it. I think Gaethje will start hot, will look good early, but I think down the line, Ferguson will win the bout. But again, like I said at the very beginning of this, I don't know. That's just how I see it going. As far as the second part of your question, how do I see Nico Price versus Vicente Luque going? That's my favorite fight outside of the main event, outside Ngannou versus Rosenstruck. That's my third favorite fight. I mean, I really like Cejudo versus Dominic Cruz. Um, but I just have some issues with the matchmaking. But I do like that fight as well. So it might be third or fourth. I don't know. But for those that don't know, this is actually a rematch. Vicente Luque actually defeated Nico Price in 2017, and he defeated him via Darce choke. I believe he took that fight on short notice too. Since both guys have improved, Nico Price has improved and has also picked up some nasty finishes, some of the best finishes we've seen in recent times, and so has Vicente Luque. However, I do think Vicente Luque is the most technical fighter, so I favor him to win. However, when fighting someone like Nico Price, who's very dangerous, got tons of power, and is willing to take risks, you can't always. It's not always safe money. You know what I'm saying? But I do think Vicente Luque is gonna pull it off. I also feel like Vicente Luque is farther into his career, meaning he's more seasoned. He's been around the UFC for longer. He's got more experience. He's gotten more time to put on tools. Where I feel like Nico Price is still a little early in his career. So it's one guy fighting here and the other guy fighting here. And I'm not saying Nico Price can't get here. I'm just saying at this point in time he's here, and frankly, I mean he's you would consider Vicente as the veteran in here. But yeah, never discount Nico Price in any fight because he's always game. But I got Vicente Luque winning. By the way, I recently spoke to him as well, video interview. I added it to my interviews playlist on my YouTube channel. It's over at MMAJunkie.com. Amazing insight. I've honestly one of the most honest fighters I've ever talked to. His assessment on what he learned from the Wonderboy Thompson loss was literally eye opening. And he made me realize a lot of things about the game and about staying on top. And then I started reflecting on other fighters that reached greatness, and basically what he was saying was very much along the lines of that, which was he was saying like, yeah, I was winning all these fights, but in between all these fights I wasn't changing much as a fighter. And then when I got to the very top, like a Wonderboy Thompson, with those guys study. Those guys are able to read. Those guys will pick up on the things that you're doing well and the things that you're not doing well. And basically he's like, it's not that I needed to get better, which obviously I can always improve in things, but I just needed to add different tools and start looking differently, keep people guessing. And I feel like that's very important. If you look at, I think, the greatest fighter of all time, George St. Pierre, he was literally the definition of that. He would go out there and train with Freddie Roach. And all of a sudden, he would step out there and have the jab of a boxer, and then the next title defense, he'll look completely differently and just start wrestling his ass off and out wrestling a guy like Josh Koscheck, etc. And like that, he's got submissions. I mean, the guy has a wide arsenal, and at all times, he's a student of the game, learning, improving, and not only improving his already existing skill set, but adding on to it. And I feel like that's what really gets you by at the high level. And I mean, it sounds, it makes sense when you say it, and it almost sounds obvious, but like, it's the way he broke it down, it was just very eye-opening. So I encourage you guys to go over to MMAJunkie.com and check that interview out. But anyways, I know I kind of went long on that question, but fantastic question, Jesus Magdaleno. I really appreciate it. All right, so question number 2, by the way. I'm sipping on a Modelo. And I have not been smoking the devil's lettuce. If my eyes look bloodshot, I don't know. I've been staring at the computer a lot, but I've been drinking. Well, this is my first beer actually. So happy Cinco de Mayo, feliz Cinco de Mayo a todos los mexicanos. Nice Mexican beer, Modelo. Thinking Corona probably wouldn't be appropriate to drink at this time. But yeah, great question, Jesus. All right, let's go to question number 2 by Nick Hill on Twitter. And he asks, let me pull it up on this other screen. It's easier to read. There we go. If Gaethje beats Tony, I will enter a month-long depression, knowing that we'll never get to see Tony versus Khabib. Is there any silver lining in Gaethje winning and being next for Khabib? I'm nervous because I think there's a real chance we see Tony lose Saturday. So yes, man, I totally agree with you. And I just went on how long have I been doing this? Like almost like a like a 10-minute rant on this thing. Um, but I agree with you 100%. There is, I mean, this is a neck and neck fight. I think, I mean, we could very well see a wipeout. Both guys have the capabilities of pulling, you know, a kind of performance like that. But but I think, yeah, it's close. It's close. Um, and I believe there is a silver lining, because at the end of the day, we want to see the best be the best. If Gaethje beats Tony, as good as that Tony versus Khabib, as good as that matchup is, I mean, at the end of the day, you want to see number one take the champion, right? And Gaethje will be number one. And you guys have heard it from me before. Outside of Tony Ferguson, I always have said it before, and I also said it many times when I was producing the MMA Hour and I was doing that show with Luke Thomas. I think the next most interesting challenge in that weight class would be Gaethje, because of the wrestling, because of his ability to take advantage of the time on the feet to make damage, um, and then various other factors as well. Risk, taking risks, um, just his physicality. Like, he can keep a high output for a long time. His cardio is great. That's something you have to be on point about when fighting a guy like Khabib. Um, so at the end of the day, you'll still get a challenger um, that will present problems to the champion. And at the end of the day, that's always fun, right? Khabib's undefeated, and you kind of want to see. I mean, not that I cheer for him to lose, but like, it's MMA, right? It's all about figuring the other guy out. So you want to see if somebody's able to do that, right? Or you want to see how great Khabib is, and actually, if he can manage to stay undefeated. So that's a good thing. Also, a good thing is look, I like Conor McGregor as a fighter, but I don't think a rematch is warranted at any point. I think with an interim belt in place, I think it can still happen where the interim champion can get skipped, but I think it's less likely. So, you can keep in mind that because of this interim belt, maybe there's a lesser chance that McGregor skips the number one contender and actually challenges for the belt. So there's that as well. And look, we're gonna get a fantastic fight with Gaethje and Ferguson. Whoever wins, we're gonna get another fantastic fight with the champions. So all in all, is like, I can see the month long depression scenario thing that you're talking about. But at the end of the day, we're guaranteed, a pair of really good fights. This weekend, Ferguson versus Gaethje, amazing fight. And then the winner of that versus Khabib, whoever it is, it's going to be an amazing fight. So um, it, these are always good problems to have. This is a great example of a good problem. Certainly a problem, but it's a good one. You want to have these type of problems, right? The UFC wants to have these type of problems, but I do agree. In a perfect scenario, I wish the pandemic didn't exist and we would have gotten Ferguson versus Khabib, and then have Gaethje waiting in line to take on the winner. That would have been the best scenario possible. But it is what it is, as they say in MMA, right? These are the cards that we got dealt with, and this is the way life is rolling out. So life isn't fair, my friend. But yeah, I guess that's the silver lining. Hopefully, I made you feel a little better about this fight happening this weekend. Just relax, have a moelo, take off your shoes. Don't worry about the consequences and the repercussions. Just know that we have a good fight coming up on Saturday. So hopefully that makes you feel better, Nikhil. Appreciate your question, by the way. All right, question number 3 by one of my favorite people, or maybe it's multiple people. I don't know. The Seaside on Twitter. Shouts out to the Seaside. Which fight do you think will have the most social distancing? Funny question. I saw a few people liked it. I was going to say favorite. That would have made me sound very old. Obviously, not a single fight will have social distancing because, it's a contact sport. But who will have the most social distancing? And for those people being like, why are you making light of Corona? And, that shit's serious. Blah, blah. Of course it is. And I've been one of the most vocal people, I think, in MMA media. There's been many, by the way. Not that I'm saying I'm the one, but about sort of the concerns and all that. But let's just have fun here for a second. who would have the most social? What fight would have the most social distancing? Let's see. I'm looking down at the card right now. I feel like obviously you can't pick grapplers. So Olenek versus Werdum, I'm pretty sure that's hitting the ground. So that fight, no. Sparsa versus Michelle Watterson will hit the ground. Sparsa's a good wrestler. Michelle Watterson, uh, obviously karate hottie, karate. She's a stand-up fighter, but I do feel like at least they'll engage in the clinch at the very least. Whether it's Sparsa trying to take her down and failing or succeeding, they will lock up at some point. Uriah Hall versus Jacare. Jacare is going to take things to the ground for sure. Bryce Mitchell and Charles Rosa both have very good jiu-jitsu. That thing's going to the ground for sure. Ferguson versus Gaethje could go to the ground. Cejudo versus Dominic Cruz. Ooh, that's actually a good one. Obviously, I know that Cejudo is an Olympic, you know, gold medalist in wrestling. In case you didn't know, but Cruz got that movement, man. Cruz got some of the best feet in the game, some of the best hands, some of the best movement. Super agile, super quick. So that fight might actually have the most social distancing, keeping in mind that, Dominic Cruz is going to be bouncing on his feet, making it look pretty, staying on his heels. So I would say that fight, or that's my pick. I think that'll have the most social distancing. Unless, hey, you don't know, unless maybe Cejudo's actually able to close the distance and get him to the ground. It's either that or Ngannou versus Rosenstruck, because that fight's definitely not hitting the ground. So I would say between, for sure, Ngannou Rosenstruck, and depending on how Cejudo and Dominic Cruz plays out, that'd be it. But I can definitely see a scenario where Cruz Cejudo is the one with the most social distancing if Cruz is able to have as much success as possible and keep the fight where he wants it, which is in the outside on the feet. So yeah. Fun question. All right. Now we got Scott on Twitter ask, who has the best boxing on the UFC 249 card? So obviously you guys know a little bit. If you guys don't know, for those that do, you guys know, obviously I have a little bit of a boxing background. I feel even weird saying that because I'm trash, but I have been boxing and I do take it seriously, and like I try, it's not like I'm just doing a Stephen A. Smith and just trying to get in shape or whatever. No, I'm actually out here like trying to learn techniques and I spar and I get my ass kicked. But so I've gotten some time to like know a little bit more about the actual sport of boxing, and I can actually, my eye for technique has gotten a little better. Obviously, again, still trash. I am no world-class coach or anything like that, but I do know a thing or two. Plus, I've been watching fights for a very long time due to my job, obviously covering mixed martial arts. There's a lot of guys here with great boxing. I mean, Cruz has great boxing, although it's an unorthodox. I mean, Jairzinho Rosenstruck, he's a world class kickboxer. Someone who's how many kickboxing fights did that dude have? A lot. That guy's technique is he's actually more technical than Ngannou, to be honest. He's extremely technical. He might be the most technical striker in the heavyweight division. I mean, Overeem, I would say maybe, but he's changed his style. I think he's realized that he can't take as much damage as he used to, so he grapples a little bit more. So, but it's just pure skill wise. I think maybe it's between them two. Maybe I'm missing somebody else, but oh, dude, Rosenstruck has almost 80 kickboxing fights. 80. Jesus Christ. No, over 80. 76 wins, 8 losses, and one draw. So he's the front runner who's got the best boxing. I know it's kickboxing, but still, it's a guy that just dedicated his life to striking for a very long time. Who else? I mean, Pettis got great striking. He's more of a taekwondo style, though. Hall's got great striking, but again, very much like Pettis, uses a lot of kicks, karate. Luque's got great boxing. By the way, Luque told me he specifically has been working strictly with a boxing coach. So I expect to see, I mean, he already had good boxing, but I expect to see even better boxing. So I would say Rosenstruck. I feel like that's the safe pick. But a lot of good boxers in this one. Even Cejudo. Cejudo himself can box. Gaethje can box. Ferguson can box. Um, so there's actually a lot of good strikers in this card. So that's pretty good. It's gonna be a fun night of fights. All right, I believe this might be the last question or second to last question. Wait, whoa, let me see. Yeah, second to last question. This is by 8 Paths of Wokeness. Nate Diaz seems to be training again. He's posting, correcting you here, bicycling, or you should say bicycling videos, but also in ice baths. While he could be using the ice baths for just cycling recovering, that seems unlikely. While I doubt any contract is signed, who is he getting ready for? Connor, George, who else? So yeah, I haven't seen his Instagram. Let me peep it real quick. Let me check this out. By the way, it doesn't surprise me. Like if I feel like he might go on like times where he might not post on his Instagram, but that's just because it's Nate Diaz. But I feel like the man is always training, so don't take that as in. Even when before he fought Pettis and he had that long layoff, the dude was posting like running triathlons and all that. Like that's just his lifestyle. So don't take his Instagram training footage and stuff like that as a great sign that he's gonna come back. Obviously, it's a better sign than him not doing anything, but know that this is his lifestyle. He smokes weed and he fights. That's what he does. That's about it. I mean, obviously, he's probably into other stuff as well because I don't know him personally, but I mean, most of the content that I see of him is either smoking pot or CBD or whatever, and training. So yeah, he does look to be training. There's definitely a fight vibe going. His last post was 7 hours ago, and he posted a photo with Nick Diaz, and it looks like he's in the back room of a locker room or whatever, like getting ready for a fight, and put a goat emoji ×2. So could very well be true that he's maybe staying ready for a potential return. I mean, I think Diaz, he enjoyed taking a lot of time off, but I feel like, I mean, I haven't talked to him. I don't know. This is if I were Nate Diaz, but I'm not him, obviously. He's 35. You can afford to take time off when you're, in your late 20s, maybe early 30s. But at this point, at 35, I don't know if you can afford, like, going from like 30 to 32. There might be an athletic difference. I don't know. I'm not there yet. I'm only 27. But certainly from 25 to 27, I kind of feel the same, to be honest. Obviously, I'm not a world-class athlete, but just speaking from personal experience. But I feel like, and then again, I'm not there yet, but I feel like from like 35 to 37, I mean, you're getting close to 40, so that's a big jumper. 35 to 38, So so if he wants to fight and he wants to make some money, he's got to get busy. I'm not saying like ASAP, but like he definitely can't take a 2-year hiatus how he's done before. So it would make sense for him to just be staying ready and being healthy and active, just to jump back in the pool. My guess, a pass of wokeness, is that the fight to make is the fight with Conor McGregor. At this time, I feel pretty strongly about Masvidal taking on Usman next. The lightweight situation is tied up. Obviously, interim belt between Ferguson and Justin Gaethje this Saturday. I'm pretty sure, and I feel pretty confident in saying that the winner will actually fight Khabib, not Conor. Again, an interim title. It will just be one step further, right, of proving whoever wins is the number one contender. Like, you guys know, like, I already felt like, I mean, Ferguson already felt like he deserved to fight for the title years ago, and he did. I mean, and he did. He fought for the interim belt. And you guys know that I've said that Gaethje is the next guy up. Obviously, he's only won 3 fights, but he's looked great in those 3 fights. He's putting out big names as well. So imagine just adding Tony Ferguson to his list, and imagine Tony Ferguson adding Justin Gaethje to the list. I just can't see either guy getting skipped over, whoever wins. So that leaves Conor McGregor kind of out of the picture a little bit, at least for now. And I feel like what a better time to make the Nate Diaz fight. So it makes sense. It's a good way to get another win, Cowboy Cerrone and Nate Diaz. That those two guys usually doesn't mean title shot, but paired with Connor's drawing power, 2 fight win streak, big fights, certainly I would say helps the case to get a shot. So, and again, it's also a big fight. It's a trilogy fight that needs to be resolved. The beef needs to be settled, and it just makes sense from all standpoints. So, um, I don't think Nate Diaz is going to fight McGregor anytime soon, but I do think there's a good chance they could fight this year, and I do feel like that's the fight to make. So, yeah, I think maybe Nate Diaz is just doing Nate Diaz things and staying ready, and I feel like maybe that fight will come up down the line. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I haven't spoken to Nate Diaz. I wish I could interview him. That'd be tight. All right. Next question is by Jose Navarrete. And he writes, "Hey Danny, greetings from Florida. Shouts out to my Florida people. Hopefully South Florida. Although I like all Florida. When I was in college, a lot of my high school friends ended up either staying in South Florida, going to FIU where I went, um, or going to Central Florida, UCF. A lot of people I knew went to Gainesville as well, UF, and a lot of some of my best friends went to FSU, Tallahassee. So during my college years, I drove everywhere in Florida, up and down, taking road trips, visiting friends, and I had a Prius C, so that did like 55 miles to the gallon because I also drove kind of slow. Not slow, but like I mean, what are you gonna be revving a Prius? That's like the weakest thing in the world. So like I just drove pretty chill. So yeah, I would travel a lot, and Florida gets a bad rep, but I don't know. I think Florida's tight, and I like it. So, you know, I'm pleased to know that I'm getting a question from somebody in Florida. So shouts out to Florida and all my Floridians. Shouts out. I mean, if it wasn't for Florida, we wouldn't be having UFC 249 this weekend. There's a debate to be had whether the event should be going on or not, but I think we've already discussed that thoroughly. All right. Anyways, hey Danny, greetings from Florida with Kim Velasquez in WWE news lately. It got me thinking about his MMA legacy. Though he had a good run, it was nothing compared to the killers Fedor Emelianenko went through in Pride's heyday. Who is your heavyweight GOAT? Interesting. So great question, Jose. Who is my heavyweight GOAT? So it's a little weird, and I remember having this conversation on the MMA beat like years ago. And it was exactly this: like, who is the heavyweight GOAT? And a lot of the guys there, who are much older than me, obviously, like Luke, he's like 40. Jeff Wagenheimer, I don't know how old he is, but he's older than me. Who else was there? I don't remember exactly who was there, but everybody was much older than me. And I feel like everyone went with Fedor. I'm not saying that Fedor is not the guy, but like I didn't experience Fedor live. Like, obviously I know who he is. I mean, I did. Obviously, he's still fighting to this day, but I didn't experience his prime live. To be honest, I kind of started tuning in when he was in Strikeforce, like watching his live stuff. That's around the time I was watching MMA much earlier than that, just to clarify. But I was much smaller. I was in middle school and high school, so I didn't have the means to buy a pay per view. When I first moved to this country, like my family, were very broke, so like, I didn't have internet for like a good amount of my youth. So it's not like I could hop on the internet and like rip fights or whatever, or anything like that. So I would only watch what was on Spike when I was in like middle school and like growing up. And then much later, then I was able to, like, I had a car and I was able to go to bars, and even if, or like sports bar, even though I couldn't drink, and I'll watch the Strikeforce events and other fights and stuff like that. So that's when I started watching Fedor. So let's pull up his record. I think he has to be the GOAT. But I would say I would feel probably more strongly about that argument if I would have experienced him in his prime. I mean, you can read stats to people, you can show people records, you can see who he's beaten, but there's something about watching someone live, and there's just something in the air. It's weird. Like, for example, I was very, very much a fan when Anderson Silva was king, and he felt like the if it felt like when he fought, there was magic. Like there was something in the air. It was weird, man. And again, I can show people that are just getting into MMA. I can show them, hey, look, look at the stats. Look who he beat. Look at his impressive win streak. And like obviously, like that all helps. But there's a certain feeling and a certain, I don't even know if aura, but like a certain energy that I just can't convey in words and stats that you pick up when things are actually in the present. So so I would say Fedor. Just because like I feel like if I don't, I mean, I feel like it has to be Fedor, right? I mean, incredible win streak. He destroyed everybody. Fighting in the wild, wild west that was Pride back then, and everybody was on PEDs basically. I don't think Fedor ever did. I mean, look at his physique; hasn't changed from when he was young till now. He looks exactly the same. Dude has never failed a drug test that I'm aware of, and he's not the most muscular guy in the world. He's kind of got that dad bod. So I would say him, but to your point, and you mentioned Cain Velasquez there, something where you met like something that measures greatness is also like how effective is your style across generations, right? Like GSP, for example, I think is the greatest ever. His style was so good that he was able to beat uh, the guys of like the upcoming generation of like the guys that were already established, the guys that became established when he was established, so the guys of his generation. So he beat the guys of the past, the present, and then he started beating the guys of the future. Same thing could be said about John Jones. That is a good indicative of who is a goat, who's great, right? These guys that are able to just stick around and still be successful across generations. For example, Randy Couture, a fantastic heavyweight, great fighter. But if you were to put him right now in the heavyweight pool, I mean, Lyoto Machida proved that. Like his skill set is I don't want to say old school or antiquated, but it was just from a different era, and it just didn't. It did cross a few generations, I guess, because he did fight till he was quite late and had success. Remember defeating Gabriel Gonzaga and stuff like that. But the guys that are really able to stretch that out are the goats. Fedor obviously did that. I feel like Cain could have done that. Like Cain's style today could very well be successful. Like his techniques could very well be successful. He could very well be champion right now. But I do wonder how much injuries played a factor in derailing that, because he wasn't an active fighter because he was injured all the time. And even his most recent fight, which was the Ngannou one, he like messed up his knee, and you just wonder if that guy was able to stay healthy and 100%, how far could he have gone. I think he could have given a Fedor a good run of his money if he would have stayed healthy. Cain is, I think he's skills wise, he's like one of the greatest heavyweights, if not the best. I mean, just a fantastic boxer, cardio for days, except when he fought Werdum in Mexico City. Um, just amazing wrestling, great chin, toughness, just relentless. Like his style was just gave a problem to like so many guys, jiu-jitsu guys, strikers, other wrestlers, big wrestlers like Brock. Like he was just a nightmare for everybody. So I do wonder how far, and he did get pretty far. I mean, he was world champion. I think he's still one of the very best. But I wonder if injury free, how much further he could have pushed that legacy. Guess we'll never know. But yeah, I'll say Fedor for now, I guess. All right, so that does it for the Twitter questions. I appreciate everybody that submitted questions because it makes this a lot easier to just get going rather than me having to scroll through the chat and all that. If you're new to this live Q&A, the way this works is I answer the Twitter questions first, which I did, and now I I take things over to the live chat, over the YouTube live chat, and then I answer the questions there. So if you didn't have time to submit a Twitter question earlier in the day, which I post the post to submit the questions on my Twitter account in the morning on Tuesday mornings, then you'll have a chance now over at the live chat. So I'm hopping over to the live chat right now, and I'm gonna answer those questions. So if you got questions, get them in now. By the way, I just want to make something clear. This stain that you see here, this is no party foul, no sloppiness from my part. I didn't spill beer on me. I don't know what happened. By the way, shouts out to VHTS. Cool swag. They always send me little care packages just to rock. Cool brand. I really like. Before they even send me free stuff, I bought their stuff. So like I'm a huge supporter of their brand. They're one of the few brands that does actually like combat and like jujitsu stuff that's actually um, paired with like things that you would wear today, or you think items that are fashionable or whatever. It ain't like Affliction or like these like other companies that like, I'm not gonna say like their apparel scringy, but like certainly something not that I wouldn't wear. Like I would rock this even if I didn't train. So shouts out to them. But anyways, I don't know what happened here. They could send me another sweater. It's just like stained, but super comfortable. Anyways, all right. Going through the questions now. Let me pop this chat so I'm looking at this screen, not that one. Let's see. James Fallon Cote. I wonder if he's related to Patrick Cote. Probably not. Thanks for the content, Danny. Keeping us sane. What does a win? Who who does a win benefit more in the Cowboy Cerrone versus Pettis fight? Ooh, great question. I really like it. Well, I appreciate you saying thank you for the content. Glad you're enjoying it. Uh, and yes, I'm glad to know that I'm keeping you sane. But know this: you guys are also keeping me sane. Like doing this is fun. I enjoy it. You know, once I'm doing this, I kind of forget about the craziness that's happening outside of my window here in New York City. So yeah, I appreciate you and your question. So, who does a win benefit more in the Cowboy Cerrone versus Pettis fight? Honestly, this might be a scenario where it benefits them both equally because I feel like they're both very much in the same situation. They're both big names. They're both fan-friendly fighters. They've they've both achieved Pettis more obviously because he's a former world champion and UFC champion, and Cerrone is not. But nonetheless, Cerrone was title contender multiple times, title challenger, former title challenger. So both guys that have reached the pinnacle of MMA or came close. Both have big names, fan-friendly fighters, fun styles, but they're both in deep in their 30s. Cerrone more. Cerrone, I believe he's 37. Anthony Pettis is 33. And they're both coming off losses. So Cerrone has 3 straight losses. That is to Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje, and Conor McGregor. What a lineup. Jesus, that is a tough lineup. And Pettis, he's coming off losses as well to Nate Diaz and Carlos Diego Ferreira. Prior to that, he had that Stephen Wonderboy knockout at 170. Um, hmm. Who would a win benefit more? I feel like they're about the same, to be honest. I would say it would. Mm, I don't know. I feel like it would still benefit maybe Pettis a little bit more, given the fact that yes, I know Cowboy Cerrone is in a little bit worse losing streak. Obviously, one more fight, 3 fights instead of 2. But the type of opposition that he's lost to, I mean, Justin Gaethje, Tony Ferguson, they're fighting for the interim belt, and Conor McGregor, he's up there as well. Whereas Nate Diaz, I mean, Nate Diaz is a great fighter, but I would say that I would consider Gaethje and Ferguson a bit of a higher level than Nate Diaz. And Carlos Diego Ferreira, or Ferreira, he's been doing amazing, and he's been picking up some good wins, including the Pettis one. And he's a guy I very much respect, but and he's on a crazy win streak: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pretty nice. But certainly, I would consider Gaethje, Conor McGregor, and Ferguson, a level above. So, in my opinion, like yeah, that 3 fight losing streak from Cerrone is not good, but it's also the type of competition. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of fighters would lose to those 3 fighters, consecutively in a row. So I feel like his losing streak is kind of deceiving because all in all, a lot of great fighters would lose to those fighters, and a lot of great fighters would lose to Fajeda and Diaz as well. But I do consider Cerrone's opposition maybe a little tougher. Plus, although Pettis has a pretty strong brand and he'll always be a big name, given the fact that he's a former world champion and his style and all that, I do think Cerrone has a little bit more of a loyal following. Like he's more of a character outside of fighting, outside of the cage, and that's always good. So even if he loses this one, I feel like there's always matchups that you can pair him up, and people will still get excited about. I think there's, even if Pettis loses, I feel like there's fights for him that people will get excited for. But I think just Cerrone has more options. Also, Cerrone can fluctuate between 155 and 170 and do well at both. Pettis is mostly a 55-year-old, and he had that one fight where he was good at 170. Other than that, he doesn't have much history in that weight class. So I do believe a win would come in a lot handier for him than it would for Cerrone. But I feel like it's about the same, to answer your question, James. Oh, by the way, keep reminding me I can do this and feature your questions. So yeah, I'll do that from now on. I always forget. Um, what am I looking at here? Hold on 1 second. All right. William Boyle, um, Gaethje and Cejudo both win it in the first round. I'm guessing this guy might be from Ireland, maybe Irish. Boyle. I feel like that's a Irish last name, or have Irish descent, maybe. Danny, you look high af. LOL. Have you been smoking the devil's lettuce? I did read earlier. No, I haven't. I actually haven't smoked in a good while. It's been a minute. Um, but yeah, I think it's just like I've been literally been staring at screens for since like 10 a.m. That's not good for you. Yeah, I've been working like all day. Mm, let's see. And also, it's not like I can go out and do stuff, so I'm just like stuck at home. So I definitely feel like that's not good for your eyesight. Not good for your eyes. Greg Hardy wins via power driver. Maybe. DeCastro he packs power and he can swing. That's going to be a fun fight. Might not be the most technical fight, but I feel like it could promise him some good action. All right, I'll feature this one. This one's funny. Stylebender versus Romero had a lot of social distancing. Yeah, that fight is the king of social distancing. Either that or the Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou fight. I don't know. But yeah, that's funny. Clever guy or women, I don't know. Yeah, ELHP 45. Let's see. What other questions? Again, if you want to submit questions, now's the time. What time did I start? I started at 8:30, so that means I got about 10 minutes left. It is 9:20. So yeah, for 10 more minutes I'll answer your questions. Are we going to introduce Tony as a two-time intern champ if he wins? I guess so. Yeah. He'd be making history there, so that's kind of tight. I wonder if like 2 interim belts equals an undisputed one. Has anybody thought about that? The value of it? It's a good question. How many interim belts equal an undisputed one? That's a good question to ask. I feel like at that point, yeah, low key, like you're kind of like the champ, maybe. Especially if you don't lose in between them, what do you see happening if Cerrone loses? Dude, again, Cerrone's brand doesn't depend on wins and losses. Like, obviously it does. It doesn't help to lose. But like I said, like people just like watching him fight, and he's this crazy cowboy dude that does crazy shit. So it's like I don't feel like he'll fight. He'll retire off circumstance. Like, oh, I lost too many fights, I'm gonna retire. I don't feel like that's the case. He'll just retire when he's done. So, and the UFC is not gonna cut him. He'll get a fight even if he loses after Pettis for sure. No problem. Did you get a new tat? No, I haven't. I actually want to get one. I have one. I have one small one on my leg. I want to get another one on my leg. After this is all over, as soon as like it is kind of safe to get a tattoo, I'll probably get another one. Let's see. Most of these are comments. Oh, I think we got one here, but I haven't even read it, so I don't know if it's talking shit or what. Hey, what's up, Danny? Been a fan since the MMA Beat days. Do you still keep in touch with everyone from the Beat? Um, kind of, I guess. Like when I see people at events, like I was at UFC 248, when Izzy defended his title against Romero in Vegas earlier in March, and like I saw all my old colleagues and although we're in different teams and working for different sites, there's still people I worked with, for years. So you develop obviously friendships with, and a lot of them I consider friends. So I saw Sean Shoddy, and that's my boy. He's a cool cat. So I mean, he was one time on the MMA. I guess from the like MMA beat days. I mean, I saw Ariel. We said what's up. Luke is I'm tight with Luke. That's my boy. He's probably the person I keep in contact the most from that crew. Luke's a good dude, and apart from that, like I'm a huge fan of his work. I think he does fantastic work. Um, and yeah, like even like this, what I'm doing right now with my YouTube channel is very much Luke Thomas inspired. Like I think he does cool shit, and he provides content that's out of the ordinary, which is always refreshing. So shouts out to Luke. He that's my boy. Um, who else from the beat? I mean, Chuck Mindenhall is super cool as well. Like whenever I see him, we always talk and hang out for a little bit. We're supposed to get drinks in Mexico, but I think he had a bunch of work to do, and then that's when UFC Mexico City, and then we couldn't make it happen. Um, I saw Jeff Wagenham a while ago, and like, yeah, I'm still cool with everyone. It's mostly like if I see them at events and stuff like that, and then we interact every now and then on Twitter. But as far as like personal conversations, yeah, maybe with some people a little bit. But yeah. Let's see. Got 7 minutes left. Fantasy fight. Who wins, Johnny Walker or Paulo Costa? I would actually put my money on Paulo Costa. He's a far better striker, I think. He's got a chin. I mean, he took haymakers from Romero. I mean, Johnny Walker's bigger, but if you can take shots from Romero, you can, for the most part, take shots from anyone. He's faster. He's got more skills. So, yeah, I got Paulo Costa beating Johnny Walker, but Walker's got that size. So but yeah, I got Paulo Costa. I really do feel like Paulo Costa could like move up to 205 and like he might be smaller than some guys, but I feel like he's a big dude. Like I don't feel like there will be much of a disadvantage as far as like a size wise. There could be slight, but enough to make a difference. Depends on who you fight. But I feel like he's one of the 185ers that would actually have plenty of success at 205, in my opinion. That's a good question. Amir Betis, hopefully I pronounced it right. The June 6th pay per view is missing a main event over or is missing a main event over or under. The UFC make an interim heavyweight title for this card. Under for sure. Wait, would that be? So that'd be betting odds. So it'd be. I would say it's not a possibility. I don't know exactly what over under means, but I would say over, right? If we're talking plus, like right, like plus 200 or whatever. I feel like if there's a time to make an interim belt, it'd be this weekend with Ngannou versus Rosenstruck. I can't imagine anybody else but those two guys fighting for an interim title. And I don't assume, unless something super controversial happens, that they'll have an immediate rematch on June 6th. By the way, the June 6th, if I'm not mistaken, Amanda Nunes is defending her featherweight title that was announced today for the very first time against Felicia Spencer. That to me sounds more like a co-main event, but again, Nunes got some star power behind her. But I would assume they would probably put another fight in there. But if they don't, that could very well headline a pay-per-view. I mean, she's headlined pay-per-views before, so it wouldn't be a first for her. But yes, no way there's an interim title on the line on June 6th. No way. Which MMA clothing brand do you like? Again, shouts out to VHTS. Dude, they make and they use a lot of like Champion stuff, which I love. Champion is like good quality, is comfortable, the fit's good. VHTS makes really cool shit. And so yeah, check out what they're doing. And they do it very much like by collections. It's not like, things are just available 24/7. They have seasons like fall 2017 season comes around. Like they release like only like a certain amount of articles of clothing where there's actual training gear. Like I have a lot of cool training shorts for jujitsu and stuff like that, right? With no pockets and the whole deal. No buttons, Velcro, and like what's it called, like missing the word right now, like compression shorts underneath the actual shorts, actually embedded to the shorts. Like what they do is quality, and it actually looks really nice and it's cool. So yeah, VHTS, which actually stands for very hard to submit. They do really cool shit. How possible? How possible is Masvidal versus McGregor? It's possible, but again, I do think the fight to make is Masvidal versus Usman. So before anything happens, I feel like those two will square off first. All right, 3 more minutes. Hmm, good question. By Wish fans. Does Dom, by that he means Dominic Cruz, does Dominic Cruz fighting style make him more susceptible to injuries? I really don't think so. I think it has to do with his body and genetics. Um, maybe so much movement can have, a toll on his joints and stuff like that, but I feel like that's like way down the line, like when you're like really old. As of now, like he's 35, a 35-year-old, and 35 now, but remember he's had injuries way before that, right? Broken hands, the tendonitis on his feet or whatever, way before that. So there's no way a man in his late 20s and early 30s could have, so many injuries from his style. I mean, it certainly doesn't help to fight for a living, like as far as health wise, but he should be in his prime. I just think it's genetics and bad luck too. One bad punch, one wrong punch, and you can just break your hand. Um, but no, if anything, I think Dom's fighting style is a fighting style that's built for longevity in the sport. I mean, the man takes very little damage. Even if it gets hit, like he's always rolling with the punches. So like, say he's moving to the. If I look at my cell phone here, it trips me out because like inverts it. So say he moves to the right, a punch coming in through right, like it might catch him, but at the same time he was already moving that direction, or he wasn't moving into it. Like so, it's like much less contact and force impacting, and he's always rolling with the punches. Like think about this: Dominic Cruz has really never been finished. He's only been submitted once. He's only lost once, and it was a submission loss in like 2007 or some shit like that against Uriah Faber. And ever since, he never lost. And he's faced a bunch of killers, never been knocked out, never been submitted again. Again, he's a very smart fighter, but also his style, I think, is a style that's built for longevity. I would actually argue if he would have had a style, say like one like John Lineker's or a different style, he probably would have had more injuries. I do think his stuff comes down to like I don't know, bad luck and genetics. That's my opinion, but I'm no doctor. All right, I'm gonna scroll all the way to the bottom of these. Any idea when Rose's fight is back on? Dude, she had two family members pass away. Like nobody should be asking her about fights. She's the one that should approach the UFC whenever she's ready. Like that's rough. Like I told you guys like a couple of videos ago. Um, the guy that did deliveries for the restaurant downstairs in my building. He was a homie of mine. Uh, cool dude. Whenever because he's a big Real Madrid supporter. Obviously, I'm an Atletico Madrid supporter, and yeah, he whenever Atletico was doing poorly, like, and I would like walk out of my apartment to like go to the bodega or go out or go to work or whatever. You always see me and like talk shit and like vice versa and like you know, um, one time I caught I had a mice problem in my apartment. Caught a few mice. Like I don't care. I'm not scared of them. But I did feel bad about killing them because it's not like a rat or anything. It was like a cute thing, So I didn't have the guts to like kill one. So I called him and he like bumped his chest and he's like, "Yo, soy chingon," and he went up there and killed it. But again, cool dude, passed away coronavirus, and I felt it like for like, not gonna lie, that night I was like I had a hard time sleeping and like um and I still think about him. Like he was a good dude. He was a dude in his 30s. Cool cat. Coronavirus fucked him up. And the last time I saw him, he was super stoked. He's like, "Oh, this chick gave me like $150 tip, like because he was doing deliveries within this these times." And I was just like, "Bro, be careful." And he's like, "I got my gloves, I got my face mask." I'm like, "All right." Then next thing you know, the restaurant was closed for a couple of days, and then my roommate asked around, and they're like, yeah, he passed away. And then I talked to a few other people, and they're like, yeah, he passed away. So I felt it, and he ain't even blood. He's not a family member. It's just a friend. Um, I can't imagine two family members. That must be horrible, horrible. So my thoughts and prayers go to Rose. Hopefully, she feels better. I mean, it's tough. Time will heal the wounds. There's nothing you can do about that. But wishing the best for her and her family. And last thing we should be thinking about is fights for her. Yeah. All right, man. I passed the hour mark. It is 9:32. I know there's a few more questions that people ask. Save those. I believe they're kind of evergreen. They're not really respective for UFC 249 this weekend. So again, every Tuesday at 7 p.m. This one was a little bit different. I had to adjust the time. I'm doing these weekly live Q&As every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on my channel. So make sure you watch out for that. Turn on notifications. Hit the like button. Subscribe. You guys know the deal. I'm really trying to make something out of this channel, and I can only do so much to drive up, the views and subscriptions. So a lot of it, relies on you guys. And if you guys enjoy this and you guys, support me, I hope you, back me up on this and, share it to your friends, share it to people that you think, they might like it, or, just even with a simple like, that'll do. But anyways, I appreciate you guys submitting questions via Twitter and YouTube as well. Again, Tuesday mornings, I make the post on my Twitter where you can submit questions via Twitter, and that way it gets, they get answered for sure first, because those get priority, and you get to get featured on this nice screen, so right next to my face. So that's kind of cool, right? But yeah, that's all I got. Just a couple of updates as far as my end, and I'm gonna start doing this more regularly. I said that last episode. Watch out for interviews with Mike Brown and Vicente Luque. Those are on video on MMA Junkies YouTube channel. You can check that out. Really good interviews. Really enjoyed both chats. The one with Mike Brown was like 40 minutes. I mean, that guy is brilliant when it comes to MMA. Very underrated as far as being a mind. Like, you don't always see him on the media and all that, but like, just talking to him, the guy knows so much. He has so much knowledge. And dude, he's coaching some of the hottest fighters right now. Masvidal, Jacek is out there. ATT is killing it. So good interview. Check that out. Also, I interviewed Roger Huerta today, Mexican. Happy Cinco de Mayo, by the way. He's in Thailand. I actually asked him if he was going to celebrate Cinco de Mayo. He said no. He's focused on training. Believe it or not, Roger Huerta is looking to come back to MMA or continue his career. He last fought in like September or something like that. So it's been a little bit of a minute. Or November, something like that. So I spoke to him. I'll be having some sort of story on him. Spoke to Jake Congo as well. He recently re-signed a new deal with Bellator. I have a story on him coming out pretty soon on MMAJunkie.com. Who else? I'm trying to think who else I spoke to recently. Jorgan De Castro as well. Fights on UFC 249. He's fighting Greg Hardy. And I got some more stuff in the works. But as far as interviews that I've done, those are it as of now. So make sure you check that out on MMA Junkie, as well as all the cool coverage we have coming this week. By the way, we have John Morgan on site. He's actually in Florida. And so I'm curious to see how media and all that dynamic works with all these new protocols. But we got you covered over at MMA Junkie. So make sure you hang around all week for that. Again, like button, subscribe, tell your friends about it, turn on notifications. And that's all I got, my friends. Stay safe, and hopefully you enjoyed this installment of my live Q&A. Hasta luego.